guys, we are now live. I hope you guys can see me on stream if everything is working correctly. Thank you so much for joining everyone so far tonight. This special live stream tonight. I'm not going to be doing the normal news stuff that we usually do on this show. Tonight, my thought was that we would be doing a special Q&A. Ask me anything. So I will be reading the chat and you guys in the chat can ask me any questions, whatever you want, and I'll try my best to answer them. And please give me any feedback if anything is working correctly, because I'm doing this new setup with a green screen in the background, this studio and this new live stream software. So please let me know. This is only my third stream, I think, with this setup, so please let me know if everything is working correctly and if anything needs adjusting, or if the microphone is too loud or anything like that. Please let me know in the chat if everything is working correctly or not. And I just want to say as well, super chats will be prioritized if you want to support the show. If you want to support the show and want guaranteed your question to be answered, please use the super chat. It's highly appreciated and helps keep the show going. And I also got these new functions with this new software live stream thing that I have with this tip jar you see here that will fill up with coins whenever there's a super chat, and your name will pop up on screen as well, so you get credit. And the Swedish national anthem will be playing as well for every super chat. So that might make you happy. Let's get into it. I see we have a couple of questions already. As I said, this is a Q&A. Ask me anything. I will be trying to answer as many questions as possible. So tonight we are not doing the usual news stuff. Rather, we are doing a ask me anything, basically. Instead of doing it on Reddit, we're doing it here on YouTube live. So I see we have a couple of questions here already, but please keep them coming in, and I'll try and answer as many as possible. A guy called Smegma asks, what was my first red pill? It was such a long time ago. I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it was probably walking around in Sweden at home in my hometown in Sweden, Täby. I was at the shopping center. It was 2014, and all of a sudden, and this was during the migrant crisis when a lot of migrants were coming into Sweden, and all of a sudden I started to see a lot of migrants walking around in the shopping center. They would have a couple of wives and 100, not 100, but maybe 10 kids. And I noticed things started to change around me. Then a couple of years later, I think it was 2015, I started watching a bit of Mark Dice, actually, and I learned all about Bilderberg and Bohemian Grove stuff and all of that stuff, and it went on from there, basically. I probably overdosed a little bit on red pills at one point, but that's long ago. That's long ago sorted. So yeah, that's basically it regarding that topic. James Woodwright asks, how is the UK portrayed where you are? Well, I'm in Norway. In Norway, I think they are quite positive towards the UK, because the UK saved Norway a lot during Second World War with the Nazis. Norway was occupied by the Nazis. Sweden, they kind of betrayed Norway. And they were actually going. The Socialist Democrats in Sweden were going to arrest the Norwegian king and hand him over to the Nazis. But thankfully, the king managed to flee himself on the Norwegian coast and take a boat over to the UK, where he was hiding in the UK during Second World War. So I think Norwegians are quite they have a quite a positive view of British people. They do have a very negative view of Germans, though. Norwegians don't like Germans. Still, even to this day, Norwegians are quite racist against Germans in a way, because they were not happy about what happened in Second World War. I think, if I remember correctly, about 50,000 Norwegians were killed by the Nazis, somewhere around that figure. So they were not happy with the Nazis at all. So yeah, Norwegians like the British, they don't like Germans, and they are they do kind of like Swedish, but there are actually, in case you don't, there is actually quite a few Norwegians that don't like Swedish people either. Especially in some parts of Norway, you can get these very bitter people that don't like the Swedish. It might have to do with the Second World War and that the Socialist Democrats actually helped the Nazis during the Second World War instead of supporting the Norwegian king. So that might have to do with it. But on the west coast in Norway, where I am, they are actually really friendly towards Swedish people, and most people, they're really friendly around these parts. James Woodwright says that he meant the question regarding the media. Yeah, well, I mean, in the media, they don't have any. The Norwegian media doesn't have anything negative to say about Britain at all, really. Guy calling himself Swedish traditionalist asks if I use snus. No, I do not use snus. Snus is a Swedish tobacco product that can be used instead of cigarettes. You put it under your lip and you walk around with it. I definitely do not. I don't smoke. I don't use any kind of cigarettes. No alcohol, no drugs, no nothing. And he also asks me what party would I want to lead Sweden, the Alternative for Sweden or Swedish Democrats. I actually voted for Alternative for Sweden in this last election that we had in September. Another question here: if things get really out of hand in Sweden with immigration and violence, can the crown intervene and assert total monarchy to start mass deportation? I'm not 100% sure, but I would definitely think that is a no to that answer, to that question. David Power asks, do you think the Christian Democrats will be able to force another election? No, definitely not the Christian Democrats. I mean, they are quite small. I mean, it could be the Swedish Democrats could be able to force another election in Sweden. It could happen. I mean, it all depends on how the coalition stuff works out, if they're able to form a government or not. And so far they haven't yet. But they're still haggling on to form the government in Sweden, and we will see what happens. There is a possibility of a re-election, but one option that we have actually is that Annie Lööf from the Center Party in Sweden could become the next prime minister if she jumps ship from the center right bloc over to the socialist bloc. If she jumps ship, she could potentially become the next prime minister. And the funny thing is, she was actually, I talked about earlier how I started to study Bilderberg, how that was on the red pills. Well, this Annie Lööf lady, she actually attended Bilderberg both last year and this year, and the guys at Bilderberg said that in 2017 that she would make an excellent prime minister. So if she becomes prime minister, you know, there's something fishy going on. Celtic Girl asks, wonder who created the word racism. I'm not 100% sure who created the word racism. I do know, though. I do know that the Frankfurt School created cultural Marxism, and from there they were basically the ones responsible for political correctness, where in which this whole racism thing comes from as well. So I would probably presume the whole racism accusation thing could come from the Frankfurt School, which was a communist school of thought. So it does come from the communists, basically, and you see it still today. It's the left that are just calling everyone racist when they're not, and all of that nonsense. Let's have a look at, I'm just reading through your chat, guys. Do you have any more questions? Please let me know in the chat. I'm answering as many questions as possible tonight. This is actually my first Q&A I've done in a year. The last Q&A I did was actually a year ago on YouTube, a live stream. I had just come to Norway, so I thought it's gone a year, why not do another Q&A? Ask me anything, guys. Use the chat, and if you want to support the show as well, please use the super chat, and we have some fun things happening on screen with the jar and the Swedish national anthem playing as well. But I'll be answering all questions as much as I can. And by the way, if you have any questions, please tag my name at PeterSweden in the chat as well, and it's easier for me to see your question if you tag my name in the chat. So please do that if you have any questions. Janette Barberi asks, how do Swedes view Trump? It depends on which Swedes you ask. A lot of Swedes will say that they don't like Trump. Many Swedes are very left-wing, and they don't like Trump. But you of course have the Swedes that do like Trump. But overall, I would think Swedes have a negative view of Trump as a majority. Gaming YouTuber Nonan010 asks, has a new prime minister been chosen after they kicked out Stefan Löfven? No, they have not chosen a new prime minister yet. They're still looking to form another government. The centre-right bloc and the socialists, they are both working to keep the right-wing Swedish Democrats out of government. So it's very interesting to see what's going to happen. Okay, apparently David Power in the chat says that Trotsky was the first man to coin the phrase racist. Okay, you might be correct in that one. I do remember something like that. Thank you so much for the super chat, by the way, from Smegma on screen. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm just looking through some more of your comments. Thank you so much for the super chat as well. Enjoy the national anthem. Mulla Viking. Thank you so much for super chats, both of you guys. I'm coming back to your questions. I'm just going through a couple of more first, and then I'm coming to your super chats. But thank you so much for the super chats, guys. And you got your credits played up on screen, and I hope you enjoyed the Swedish national anthem was supposed to play there. I cannot hear the audio myself, but it is supposed to play in the background. Let me know in the chat if you could hear it. Press 1 in the chat if you could hear the Swedish national anthem play. Joy Electric says, please tell me you're not into the Jew conspiracy. No, I'm not into the Jew conspiracy. I think that is quite a stupid thing to think. There's definitely a globalist elite who are trying to control stuff in the world and spread propaganda and so on. But they are not. It's not some kind of Jewish conspiracy, not at all. I would actually say that. That the Pope would actually be one of the main guys at the top of this conspiracy, in my opinion. I'm just looking through some more of your chat. Wretched42 asks, how much different is the Norwegian language from Swedish? It's actually quite a lot similar. I speak both Norwegian and Swedish. So they are very similar language, and Danish too is very similar as well. Danish, Swedish, Norwegian, all very similar, especially written. But Danish is actually very hard for me to understand. They speak so strange. It sounds like Danish people sound like they have a frog in their throat when they speak. It sounds like they are choking on something when they're speaking. So Danish is ridiculously hard to understand. But Norwegian and Swedish is very similar in many ways. Let me try and think of something to say in Swedish and Norwegian so you can hear the kind of difference. So, for example, hi, my name is Peter. In Swedish, that would be hej, mitt namn är Peter. In Norwegian, it would be hej, mitt namn är Peter. So it's very similar. It's I cannot pronounce Norwegian dialect accent correctly. Norwegians would use a different accent, but I did say the kind of right words as they're written down, but I don't have the correct Norwegian accent. Let me just think if there's something else I could say as example. What should I say? Okay, I'm gonna let you guys in the chat tell me what to say. If anyone has a suggestion of what you want me to say in Swedish and Norwegian to compare the two, please write me a sentence in the chat, and I'll try and read them up in Norwegian and Swedish. So let me know in the chat. David Power has actually a very good question here. What is my opinion of Jordan Peterson? I am not a big fan of Jordan Peterson. He does some good stuff, but Jordan Peterson is actually preaching a new age kind of a new age religion, basically, of self-help and all of that stuff. Very much like Gnosticism, if you know what that is. Research it. So I'm not that big a fan of Jordan Peterson. And thank you so much again, by the way, for the super chat from Smegma from the UK. Really appreciate it. It helps keep the show going. And thank you so much for the super chat from Mulla Viking from Norway. Really appreciate your super chat and helps keep the show going. Thank you so much. He has a question here. Do you work, or are you just a e-beggar? No, I do definitely work. I do a lot of work. I write and do videos and so on. I don't know if that is what you mean by e-beggar, but it's definitely not e-begging. That's very much as much work as doing normal work, if you would say. I cannot really, I couldn't really get a normal office job even if I wanted, because of my because of what I do. I mean, if I'd gone for an office job, they would ask me, do you have any Twitter or Facebook or something, and I would look it up, and they would probably not hire me because I would be too edgy for them, I guess. But I do this work instead, spreading news and the important news that the mainstream media doesn't report on. So it's just as much of a work as anything else. David Leva has a good question. How do I explain to my girlfriend that visiting Sweden is not a good idea because it's the most culturally enriched capital, and many instances of this enrichment from visitors from far? How do you explain that? I mean, you just have to be blunt and say that Sweden is not particularly safe. There's a lot of rapes. Just show her the facts. Last year there was 7,230 reported rapes. If you do the maths, that will actually mean that 1 in 8 Swedish women will be raped during her lifetime of 80 years. That's quite a lot. It's one of the highest rapes in I think it is the highest rape in the Western world. And for example, last year there were 200 bombings in Sweden, including 50 hand grenade attacks. Just tell somebody statistics, and she might change her mind. Wretched here says that the super chat anthem music drowns out my voice. Okay, let me see if I can adjust it a little bit. I'm gonna make the super chat Swedish anthem a little bit less loud. Okay. Okay. Just reading through some more of your chat. Dun, 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 dun. I'm just trying to see if I could find any phrases you wanted me to say in Norwegian and Swedish to compare between the two. Yeah, there's a Norwegian guy here, Joy Electric, says my dialect sucks. My Norwegian dialect sucks. Yeah, I know my Norwegian dialect. My Norwegian dialect does suck. Laura thinks I should want me to say Norway is beautiful in Swedish and Norwegian to compare. Okay, let's do that. Let me just think a little bit. I think it's actually exactly the same in Swedish and Norwegian. Well, almost. In Swedish you would say Norge är väldigt vackert. That means Norway is very beautiful. So, well, actually you would say Norge är vackert. Yeah, that's kind of what you would say. In Norwegian you would say what would you say? I'm just trying. My brain is standing still. I'm just trying to think. What do you say in Norwegian? Norwegian is not my first. Swedish is my first language. Norwegian is my second language. In Norwegian you would say Norge är väldigt fint. I think that is the correct way. That is what you would say in Norwegian. I don't know if there's a particular other word you would use for beautiful. If anyone Norwegian in the chat knows, let me know please. But yeah, in Swedish you would say Norge är vackert, and in Norwegian you would say Norge är fint. Or you could say Norge är vackert. You could say that in Norwegian as well. You have the same words in both Swedish and Norwegian. Yes, exactly. Joy Electric says that I speak Norwegian in a Swedish tone. You are correct. I can speak Swedish in Swedish, and I can speak Norwegian in a Swedish accent. Basically, that's basically correct. Just have a look through some of your super chat. Reading through some of the chat. A guy here in the chat asks how I would characterize myself politically. I would define myself as a traditional conservative, a paleo-conservative, traditionalist, Ron Paul style libertarian, and a bit of nationalism as well, perhaps a combination of those. Traditional conservatism, traditionalism, Ron Paul style libertarianism, and nationalism, perhaps. I think that would be quite a good description. A combination of those. I got a lot of questions here. I'm just trying to read them all. I have a little bit delay, but I'm trying to read them all as much as I can. Ralph asks, what do you think the Swedish people would do if things go worse? Would war be a possibility? You are a peaceful people. I do not think the Swedish people would do anything, to be honest. The Swedish people are way too peaceful to ever do anything. If anything got too bad, if it got really bad, like there was no food and stuff, then sure, I guess everyone would do something, perhaps. But as long as people have food on the table, I don't think they are going to do anything. Another question here: which part of Norway do I live? I live on the west coast of Norway. Møre og Romsdal. You would know if you're Norwegian what that is. There's someone in the chat here saying that he's a Norwegian who's living in Skåne, trying to sound local. Very hard to speak Skånsk. Yes, you are correct. All Swedish Norwegian people that are watching this will know that in Skåne, that's the southern part of Sweden, where Malmö is located. Skåne is a county, a big area in the southern part of Sweden, and they speak very funny down there compared to the rest of Sweden. I can understand it because I've been a lot with people from that area, so I can understand how they speak there. I think I can try and imitate a little bit skånska. But it's quite hard. But in Skåne you would say I Skåne så pratar vi skånska, something like that. But in the rest of Sweden you would say I Skåne så pratar vi skånska. That is a difference in dialect between what they say down there to compared to the rest of Sweden. It's quite hilarious. Okay, so Mulla Viking says that you can say that Norge är vackert. Okay, so you can say both. So you can say both in Swedish. You would say Norway is beautiful. You would say in Swedish Norge är vackert. And you could say in Norwegian as well. Norge är vackert. So almost exactly the same. Or you could say Norge är pent. Someone suggests as well in the chat. Yeah, so it's very, very, very similar. I'm a little bit after. I'm a little bit of the delay. I'm reading the chat from what you're typing, but I'm coming to everything as much as I can. Mulla Viking comments that speaking Norwegian in a Swedish accent is like 90% on the way. Speaking Swedish. You might be correct, almost. But I can write Norwegian perfectly. I can write in Norwegian perfectly. Yeah. MK asks, is it safe for tourists to travel in the Swedish northern countryside? How are crimes there? Is it mainly in the cities? Yeah. I would say it's relatively safe to travel in the Swedish northern countryside. It's not entirely safe, but it would be relatively safe. It's mainly in the cities and the suburbs where the crime is happening. Yeah, you would be relatively safe as a tourist in the countryside in Sweden. Not 100% safe, but relatively safe compared to other countries. And we have another question here. Which country has prettier women, Norway or Sweden? I don't know. Both are very nice, but with part Jewish as well, that would be very that would be very nice. And how is Brexit viewed in Sweden? From David again. Brexit in Sweden, I don't know, it's a little bit 50-50. Some people like leaving. I think not many people like that Britain is leaving the EU, but there are quite a few that want Sweden to leave the EU. Around about 30, 35, 40% perhaps want a referendum. So there are a few that want Sweden to leave the EU as well. Actually, the Communist Party in Sweden, they want to leave the EU. That is the only thing I agree with the Communist Party on. They want to leave the EU, I want to leave the EU. So that's the only thing we agree on. And we have a cheeky comment here from a Danish guy here. Says that you can pick on Danish all you want. We will always hear you as drunk fairies. Now Danish is the craziest language in Scandinavia for sure. It's impossible. Dun, 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 dun. So apparently my pronunciation of Møre og Romsdal was quite local sounding. Okay, well, I guess I picked it up from living here for a year. Let me just see so I don't miss any chats here. It's skipping a little bit for me. I'm just trying to catch up with all of your comments. Adam Smith wants more Skånska. I don't know how much more Skånska I can speak. I can say a few sentences in the kind of, so in Skåne, in the southern part of Sweden there, they kind of bend the words in a strange way. Skånska, they would say. So the rest of Sweden would say Skåne. But in Skåne they would say they are from Skåne. So they pronounce it like really strange. Dig Duncan says, I missed your chats so far. How is the mood in Norway with regards to politics? It's quite right wing, like the rest of Europe, especially here in the western coast at least. Like everyone here votes for the populist party, who wants to cut down on mass migration and all of that stuff. A lot of people here on the west coast are very, very conservative. They're probably some of the most conservative people in the whole of Western Europe, for sure. Overall, it's kind of leaning towards the populist right-wing parties. They are the ones that are in government right now. Let's have a look here, see if we find any more questions. I'm just reading through your chat. All right, we have an Italian guy in the chat. Thank you so much for joining. Steve Franson watching. Thank you, Steve. Says really looks great. Thank you. We will be having Steve on. We'll be having Steve on in a couple of days, I hope, to talk about stuff from America. I'm going to have to try and figure out how I will do that with this new live stream setup, but we will have him on again, definitely. So we look forward to that, and he is in the chat right now. We have a question here. How is it being Swedish in Norway? I don't know. It's the thing is, I am not 100% Swedish. I am actually only about 50% Swedish. My dad is Swedish and my mother is Norwegian. I was actually born in Norway. I grew up in Sweden. I have a Swedish passport. I have a Norwegian one now, but I had a Swedish. I've grown up with a Swedish passport. I lived in Sweden, so I speak Swedish as my first language. My dad is Swedish, so it's not really like it's almost like home in a sense. So it doesn't really feel anything except that I speak Swedish more than Norwegian. So, but everyone understands. There's no problem. Bob Crease asks if I'm going to mention Tommy Robinson's new petition. I haven't actually seen that petition yet. I've heard there is something going on there, but I haven't actually managed to see it yet. But I'll have a look. Laura asks, what is my favorite animal? That's actually a good question. I don't know. Dogs, probably. I don't know. As a pet, it would definitely be a dog. I had 2 dogs. One of them died. I still have one dog. As a pet, it would be a dog. When it comes to wild animals, it would be... I actually have no idea. I don't know. Wild animals, which would be my favorite wild animal? I haven't really thought about that. Birds, maybe. I don't know. Maybe birds. Paul D asked what I think about Millennial Vose getting kicked off Twitter. So Millennial Vose, he is an alt-right guy. I do not agree with him. I just want to make that clear. I do not agree with Millennial Vose's views. But I very much support his right to free speech and not be banned on social media just because he has dissenting opinions. So I do support his free speech. I do not agree with everything he says. Karina asks if I drink snaps. So snaps is a Swedish quite strong alcohol. I don't drink alcohol at all, so the answer to that would be no. Mulla Viking says he would really enjoy having a pet moose. That could be fun. I don't know how you would be able to do that, but could be. So apparently Tommy Robinson's new petition is about a British... So apparently a British soldier was dismissed from the army after he took a selfie with Tommy Robinson. Huh. Well, okay. I did see that there was some uproar about Tommy Robinson posing with some army guys, but has that guy been dismissed now? Are you kidding me? So you cannot take selfies with someone, then you'll be... Okay. That doesn't sound very good at all for the state of the UK. I mean, okay, you might disagree with the guy, but you cannot... If you're caught with a selfie with a guy, you are kicked from your job? Really? That's some 1984 stuff right there. Do you have any more questions, guys? Make sure to keep them rolling in. I'll try and answer as many as I can. It's been a year since I did a Q&A, so I'm gonna try and answer as many as I can. Keep the questions rolling in, whatever you want, and if you have any special questions, if you want them to be guaranteed read, super chats would be highly appreciated and helps keep the show going. And make sure to, by the way, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And if you do subscribe, your name will actually pop up on the screen here as well. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do so. Someone in the chat here wants to go back to the Kalmar Unionen with Denmark and Sweden all together. I don't know. Could be a good idea. Denmark and Norway are definitely more red-pilled than Sweden, so I don't know. It would definitely be better if the Danish government would be in Sweden. That would be for sure. They know a lot better what they are doing. They know a lot better what they are doing than the Swedish government. Definitely. Salar asks if I am biased in answering questions. No, I'm biased. I'm just telling my own opinions on stuff basically now that I'm doing a Q&A. So you're asking my opinions on things. I'm just saying my opinions. So I guess it would be biased in a way when I'm answering questions like this. But not in the way you mean, I guess. Question here, do I understand a Western Norwegian dialect? I do very much, yes. My mother is from Western Norway. My mother speaks in Western Norwegian dialect. And I live in Western Norway right now, so I do very much understand Western Norwegian dialect. I actually think it sounds really nice. It's a very nice dialect. I'm just gonna take a sip of my milk. My mouth is starting to get very dry. I got my 1.5 liter carton of milk for the night. Just looking to see if there's any more questions. So, any chance that a right-leaning leader like Brazil's Bolsonaro might come to power in Sweden? No. That's not going to happen because, well, we have a right-wing Swedish Democrats. They got 18% of the votes, so third biggest party. But there's no way they're going to come into power. The others are going to work to keep them out. There's really no way they're going to come into power. The right wing. And we have a question here: why do I abstain from drinking alcohol? That is not very Scandinavian. No, I don't drink alcohol. Because I'm a Christian, I don't drink alcohol, so no, that's not for me. A lot of people in Scandinavia do drink alcohol though, but I don't know, I would probably say British people drink more. When I was in Britain, I would kind of say that British people drink more than Scandinavian people. And because it's actually something, there's actually one thing that is good with socialism here. So both in Sweden and in Norway, you cannot actually go and buy alcohol anywhere. So both in Sweden and Norway, they actually have a state monopoly on alcohol. So only the state can actually sell you alcohol in Sweden and Norway. So that means that they have special shops, dedicated shops that are not too common. I mean, if you live out in the countryside, it can be quite a long drive to get alcohol. You have to drive into one of the big cities. It can take an hour's drive. I actually think it's almost an hour's drive from where I am to where you can buy the nearest alcohol. So the state has a monopoly on alcohol, and they have very high prices as well. They put out the price because they got a monopoly, and less people drink alcohol because of it, which is a good thing. So here's actually one thing where where communism is actually good. This is one thing where communism is good, is on the alcohol monopoly. So yeah, they don't drink as much as you could have thought, but they do drink. Yeah, Exibel does say for strong drinks you can buy beer in the store. That's right, you can buy like 3% beer in the store, but you cannot buy anything stronger. Any hope that Sweden will wake up? Maybe. I mean, more and more people are beginning to wake up. I see it more and more. I'd probably say around about 25%, perhaps 25-30% of the Swedish population right now have woken up already. It's not enough. Will more people wake up? I'm not sure. Could be. We'll just have to wait and see. As the situation gets worse, I think more people will wake up. But we'll have to wait and see. 10 years from now, what will the demographic change bring to Europe, especially Scandinavia? Can you make a guess? Well, we can actually make an informed guess. We can make an informed guess about roughly, because we can see the statistics. If you look at Sweden, for example, let's look a little bit longer than 10 years. Let's look at 40 years ahead, there was a report that came out that in 40 years time, Swedes will actually be a minority in their own country. And it's actually such already, if I remember correctly, it is such already that among the people born, I think it was the year 1997. So among all people born in the year 1997 that are living in Sweden right now, that generation, it's about 50% migrants in that generation in Sweden. 50% among the generation that was born in 1997. Already now, 50% of them have migrant background already. So this is just going to continue. This is just going to continue getting worse and worse, and Swedes will become minority in their own country in the near future. Regarding the alcohol thing, by the way, Guy comments here that Jesus made water from wine, made wine from water. I think you're mixing up Islam with Christianity if you're abstaining for religious reasons. No, I'm not. The Bible does say that you should stay sober, and if you drink alcohol in large amounts, you don't stay sober. So the Bible does say you should stay sober, and that's what I intend to do. And now, of course, there are examples in the Bible. For example, the Apostle Paul told one of his friends that he should drink a little bit of wine for his stomach's sake, because the water was, I would guess, the drinking water was probably pretty bad in that area. So it's not like super strict kind of that way, but you should stay sober, basically. Who makes the better car, Volvo or Saab? Ooh, sadly Saab is no more. They went bankrupt. Volvo are still alive, but they are bought by a Chinese company. I prefer Saab. If the Saab was still around today, I would buy a Saab. Saab were really good cars. You do still have the brand Saab around in Sweden, but they don't make cars, they make military hardware. So they make airplanes, fighter jets, I think they make tanks as well. They make all kinds of military hardware, very good hardware in fact. Sweden has a very good military hardware production, yeah. And then what about Norway and the demographic change? Will it be the same like Sweden? No, Norway is actually a lot behind. It's not as bad as in Sweden. It's, if I remember correctly, the figure of migrants in Sweden right now, in Norway right now, is so migrants from outside of Europe. So you're talking about migrants from the Middle East or Africa. That's about 8% of the population right now. So it's bad, but it's not really bad. But it's getting there, but not as quickly as Sweden. Yeah, Saab were very good cars. They were indeed very, very good cars. It's really sad they went bankrupt, because they were making some pretty good cars. Let's see if we have any more questions. We're gonna start wrapping this live stream up here in a couple of minutes, guys. So if you have any last questions, please let me know in the chat. We will be answering them, and then we will be starting to wrap this live stream up. And yeah, so I'm just gonna wait here for your chat for a couple of minutes more, see if you have any last questions coming up. Please make sure to type them in, and we will start wrapping this up pretty soon. Stitch asks if I can do anything in Swedish. I mean, I can do, but the audience wouldn't be as large, because most people that are subscribed to me speaks English, so I'm gonna stick with English, I think. If there's anything you want me to say in Swedish, I could do that, as long as it's family friendly. So if there's anything you want me to say in Swedish, I could do that. Opinions about Alex Jones and his ban. Well, I mean, I think Alex Jones has been doing quite a good job. He's talking a lot about a lot of good things. I don't agree with him on everything, by no means. He has some crazy things that he says, but overall, he does spread a lot of red pills. So he does spread. Overall, he does a very good job. I've been on Infowars several times myself, so I have nothing bad to say about them, really, except that they do have some crazy conspiracy theories to talk about, but other than that, no, and he should definitely not have been banned. That's absolutely insane, and it really shows the kind of social media censorship that we are facing right now. So, yeah, that should definitely not have happened. Actually, let me just bring up the chat on screen as well, so we can read your if you have any more questions, so you guys can actually read them up on screen here as well right now. Just reading through some of the chat. Do I know Varg Vikernes? No, definitely not. I do not like Varg Vikernes one bit. He was convicted of murder in Norway, and he actually burned down churches because he is a pagan, and he burned down churches in Norway. I do not like him at all. I think he is a terrible guy. Apparently the word wine in Hebrew means juice from fruit. Okay, I didn't know that. So wine could be... so the wine that is mentioned in the Bible could actually just be grape juice. Interesting. Someone is asking, am I going to ditch that modern skyline? I hate it. I could ditch it. I could ditch it right now, like that. Is that any better? Should I just go with this? Should I just ditch the skyline? I could just do this this background, or let's see if we can get anything else, perhaps. Let's see here. Just give me 1 second. Just give me 1 second. I disappeared. There we go. Happy? Is this any better than the skyline thing? What do you think? Press 1 if you think that this is better than the skyline, or press 2 if you prefer the skyline in the chat. I'm just gonna keep this up here for now anyway. Thank you so much for the nice comment, Stitch, in the chat. Yes, Swedish traditionalist says that Varg Vikernes is a Satanist. I think you might be correct. I think he's a pagan, but I don't know. Pagan and Satanist, that's basically the same thing. Yeah, as the Swedish tradition says there. Okay, so currently you guys in the chat seem to think that this skyline is better. This background is better than the skyline. Okay, everyone seems to be saying that this is a better background. Actually, let me try something else as well. I have another I have another thing I want to try. Give me one moment. Let me just find something for you. Give me one moment. I will try and find a different background. See if you prefer this. Just give me 1 second. There we go. So this is a oh, that doesn't look good. There we go. This is actually a Swedish flag I designed myself. What do you think? Is this any better? Let me know. Should I keep the Swedish flag or should I go back to the Norwegian skyline? Sorry, Norwegian photo. Norwegian photo, Swedish flag, or shall we do this one? What do you think? Someone wonders if I could do a live stream with Ramsey Paul on his Happy Homeland show. I haven't done any streams with him before. I could take it into consideration. I'll have to look into it. Gaming YouTuber asks if migrants are coming into Sweden in massive numbers or not. So yes, just this year Sweden has taken in 100,000 new migrants coming into Sweden just this year. So they just keep on coming in. Apparently you think the mountain is nicer. Okay, let's just keep it at that. I want to try and get some kind of animated background. You know what? Let me try something. Give me one moment. I'm just gonna try and find something for you to change the background. I have an idea. Yeah, we are getting a lot of Norway in the chat. So we are going to have to keep the Norway one, I think. I had an idea of something I could do for a Norway one. Thank you so much for the super chat. I was just going to wait to talk until the anthem stopped playing because it's so loud. Thank you so much, Nikolai, for the super chat here from America. I really appreciate it. It helps keep the show going and you help keep filling this jar up. Thank you so much, Nikolai. You're the best. Asking, we know how the election turned out in Sweden, but what about the neighboring countries? Okay, so it's a very good question. So Sweden, as you know, the Socialist Democrats won, the Swedish Democrats, they did okay, but not as good as hoped. I don't know when the Danish elections are actually coming up next year, and currently the Danish... I'm just going to stop talking while the national anthem plays, because it's you've said it's so loud. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you so much for super chat there. I'm just going to stop talking for a moment so you can hear the anthem playing. Thank you so much for super chat there, Joy Electric. I'm going to come to you in a minute. I'm just going to answer Nikolai's question as first here. So Nikolai used the super chats asking, we know how the elections turned out in Sweden, but what about the neighboring countries? So Denmark election is coming up next year in 2019, if I remember correctly. They currently have quite right-wing. I believe they have a populist in government right now. They have a very good. They have a very good migration minister in Denmark. Actually, let me actually see if I can bring. Just give me 1 second. I'm gonna bring up a screenshot of this Danish migration minister, because she is actually doing a pretty good job in Denmark when it comes to this stuff here. Let me just give me a couple of minutes. Just give me 1 minute. See if I can find a screenshot. I know I have it somewhere on my computer, and it's supposed to be here somewhere. I know roughly where it is. I'm just going to have to look a little bit. If I can't find it, I can just drop it. I think I know where it is. I just found it right here. So this is the Norwegian migration minister Inge Støyberg, and she has been keeping migrants out of Denmark. Here she is seen celebrating with a cake after they managed to stop migration, to cut down on asylum seekers. She actually posted this photo on Facebook, celebrating with cake that they had managed to stop migration into Denmark as much as they had, celebrating with a cake. And she also had there's also another one I want to show you as well. Just 1 second. There we go. So she posted, this is Inge Støyberg's Facebook. She posted this Facebook post here in 2017. This is her iPad background, and she posted this talking about how important free speech is. And she posted this. This is actually her iPad background. This is the Danish migration minister. This is her iPad background. This photo right here. I mean, you can just imagine if a British minister had this on their iPad, things would get a little bit crazy. But here she is just posting this openly on Facebook, saying this is free speech, and she posted this. And she is the one responsible for migration in Denmark. So Denmark has quite a good government right now, and it's interesting to see what will happen next year. When it comes to Norway, they had elections actually this year, earlier in the summer. It was this year. The kind of center-right party won the election, so they have the prime minister. They are ruling in a coalition government together with the populist party here in Norway, which is the most right-wing party that is in Norway. So Norway has quite a right-wing government, especially compared to Sweden. They are quite tough on migration. In fact, Sylvi Listhaug, who was the migration minister, she's now actually the vice leader of this party now. So she's probably going to become the leader of this party pretty soon. I actually met her a couple of months ago at a meeting here close, because she actually lives only about half an hour away from me. So she was holding a political meeting, a town meeting. I attended it, and I asked her a few questions, and she is pretty red-pilled. So I'm pretty happy about that. She will make an excellent. She is going to do quite. I hope she becomes leader of the populist party, because she is pretty right-wing, pretty conservative. And thank you so much for the super chat from Joy Electric from Norway. Says, keep it up, Peter. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your support, and thank you so much. And with your help, we can keep this show going. Thank you so much. Yes. It looks like It looks like a lot of you guys in the chat know that Inge Støyberg of Denmark is pretty woke, but yeah. So Denmark and Norway, they're doing pretty good. Sweden, not so much. Sweden could definitely learn from Norway and Denmark. Yeah, we've been going about an hour here now. I think we are going to wrap this up here. I want to thank everyone who has been joining us tonight on this live stream. I've really enjoyed it. A lot of good questions. I really enjoyed the chat. I think we have a good thing going here. Really enjoy talking with you guys, and Thank you so much for all the questions. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this as well, and subscribe to my channel as well if you haven't done so. If you enjoyed this Q&A, we will be back again. Not tomorrow. We will be back on Friday. So we'll be doing another stream on Friday at the same time, 9 p.m. British time, 10 p.m. Swedish time. I think it is 1 p.m. Pacific time in America. So we will be back on Friday the 12th. Ooh, almost Friday the 13th there. I'm not superstitious, but I don't know, it's just interesting. But it's Friday the 12th. Friday the 12th at 9 p.m. UK time, we will be streaming again. Hopefully we will be having a guest, and we'll be talking about current events and news happening. So make sure to tune in there, and we will see you on Friday. Thank you so much, guys, and good night.